Hi and welcome back to Green Country Custom Baits. I'm Jeff. On today's complete tutorial for custom lure art, we're going to break down an airbrush completely, every single part, and do a complete clean. It's been well overdue on all my airbrushes, and we're starting to run into clogs here and there. So after the intro, stick around. We're gonna break this thing down, and I'm gonna show you a couple different procedures for how I clean an airbrush. Okay, so we're inside. We're going to show you the disassembly of the airbrush. But first up, I wanted to show you some of the tools that you'll need, or that'd be great to have. And the list is really small. Really, basically the only things you need is it'd be good to have a set of needle nose pliers. This 5 or 6 set of small brushes. I rarely use any of these bigger ones, but these bottom two are used quite a bit. Your airbrush wrench generally comes to your wrench, or any kind of wrench to remove this cap right here. Okay. Good idea to have some kind of, I like super lube. Comes in this little baggie. That wrench doesn't come in it. That goes to my needle removal. And that's pretty much it. And some type of small bowl to soak your airbrush in, which is where we're at right now. I've got this one already disassembled. And then again, I like simple green as far as the chemical I use. This is a concentrated deal. I just mix it about 50-50, maybe even a little stronger with the simple green, and soak my airbrush in there for a good 10 minutes or so. And, again, this method is just going to be the soaking method. You can also, if you want to invest in a sonic cleaner, you can go that route. But again, not a lot of tools needed in order to completely disassemble and do a complete clean on your airbrush. 15-20 minutes, counting the 10 minutes of soak time, and you're good to go. And really, you can avoid some of the soak time if you want to by just using the toothbrush, old toothbrush to clean the exterior off. So next up, we're going to show you the disassembly of this other one and how we go about cleaning it and reassembling it. So stay tuned. Okay, on airbrush disassembly. Of course, I've got the quick change here, Iwata, where your needle just comes right out. You tell this one needs cleaned. It's a spring. Keep that spring attached to that. Then this quick chuck comes off. Remove the short little handle. You need a pair of needle nose pliers, are good and handy to have. If you don't have this particular setup here, basically the same thing. It's just a little bit slower, but you're going to remove your handle. You're going to remove a small nut that holds that needle in place. So not much differences. But again, this thing's going to come out in a couple different pieces. I like to just lay it out if it's the first time you've done it in the order that you've removed. Watch this. Sometimes this is not attached, but in these Iwata, newer Iwata Eclipse CS's, it is attached there. Pull your trigger out. Then it's good to have this little kit. Usually with your airbrush, you're going to have this wrench. You'll need that in order to remove this nozzle cap. Skipped a step here. Hang on just a second. Getting in too big of a hurry. There's your nozzle cap. Now we're going to remove And sometimes this one's going to be perfect. Cap comes off. Then you got this neat, the housing that holds your needle cap. And I'm not great on the terms, but and you basically now your airbrush is completely broken down. Okay. On the end of this, we have a really small. We're just going to remove that as well. Okay, so that we can. So our airbrush is completely disassembled now. Hope you can see with the light here. It's not great in the kitchen. We've got a dark, rainy day today, but this brush is completely broken down and ready to go. So I'm going to show you another one. Method 1 for cleaning an airbrush. I again like Simple Green as the chemical that I use, and it does a really good job of breaking that paint down. In fact, it's what I clean my airbrushes with after each paint change. It's biodegradable. It doesn't have alcohol in it. Alcohol can ruin your finish on your exterior of your airbrush as well as inside the paint cup. So, you know, try to watch materials that chemicals that have ammonia, or alcohol's not too bad. Mainly it's ammonia. Okay, so this one's all broke. This is a big necessity to airbrush cleaning. You can pick one of these up cheap at an airbrush supply store. I'll leave a link in the description below to where I purchased mine. All you need to do is just, you know, soak your airbrush for quite a while. This one's been sitting in here for 20 to 30 minutes. It really doesn't take that much time. Just an old toothbrush to kind of clean your cup out, clean the exterior finish off. Then you want to find the usually the second to the smallest size. On this, I just dip it in a little of that, and I'm going to run that up through. I don't know that you can see that inside the cup. We're just running this straight up through there and trying to pull out any paint particles that we could have trapped in that paint and air passages. Mainly the paint passages. Air comes through this smaller one. So that's where it mixes internally inside this brush. So, you know, that's good and cleaned and ready to go. I also want to take the smallest one and clean what your needle travels through. So look at all that stuff come out of that. I don't know if you can see that, but it is filthy. And this will make my airbrush slide much better. Let's see what we get. Still got a little bit. Okay, so that should be good to go. And we got our air cap. This is 3.5. I just run that through there a little bit just to see if any clogs are in it. Give it a good rub down with the Simple Green Mix. Set it aside. About pinched my finger off, so that's why I'm wearing a Band-Aid today on working on a tractor. So it happens, right? Okay, just give you a little good little cleaning. So the next things we've got down in here is our And see this one, the little brass, you want to be real careful with that, but it stayed in the housing, which is not a big issue. Again, we're going to run our smallest little airbrush cleaning tool through it a few times. Just make sure we don't have any paint clogs inside that. And there you go. The last thing we have is this tiny little 3.5. There's really not much, if anything, that you can run through that, for the exception of your needle. So you're not going to push much out of it, but I do just kind of fit that needle in, rotate it around, make sure it feels good and smooth. Expect your needle for bends in that tip, and there you have it. And that's the first method for cleaning your airbrush. The other one is involving using the sonic cleaner, and it does a great job. You can put all your parts in there and just run it for 15 minutes or so, and it does a good job of loosening that stuck on paint and those kind of things. So we'll just do a quick rinse on all these parts that have been soaked in there. We'll blow it out with an air compressor, and we'll come back and show you the reassembly, and maybe give you a look at the sonic clean method as well. So we'll sign off, be right back. Okay, just want you to, this is what came out of my airbrush. Now this, that was just that first airbrush. I use this one probably more so than the next one will do, but that's just all the gunk that come off the outside, the inside. Probably more of that was on the outside than anything, but okay, now for, we've got all our parts out here. I've taken and used an air compressor and blew out all the air fittings, because I don't ever remove any of that. And there's a few other things inside here I don't ever remove, but you want to inspect your little rubber O-ring here. If you get some leaks around that could be going bad. It's good to keep some of those parts on hand. But as you can see, everything looks good and clean, almost like new, and it will definitely work a heck of a lot better than it did before. Close to new. So we're gonna reassemble this. The first thing we want to do is, again, make sure everything's dry. Be extremely careful that you don't drop any of this into a sink, anything. That's why I always work over a paper towel. We want to just get that started. That 3.5 needle thing. And again, I just use, it's extremely small, but it's got two flat sides. If you have a small wrench, I always just use and it's just, don't over tighten it, okay? It's in a brass fitting. And there you have that. And again, this is going to fit onto the end of the brush. Okay, we're going to use our tool that was supplied with the airbrush to get that a good tightening on it. Next is our cap, if that's the proper name for it. So that's all back good to go. Okay, needle has been cleaned off. I don't know if I showed that, but I soaked it in Simple Green, just washed it down good. I feel of it, make sure it feels smooth. If you've got some rough edges or you got some paint lines left on it, you can take just a little bit of emery cloth or real fine sandpaper and just turn that and keep it a good sharp edge. They do make a tool that if you've bent that you can place this into rotate it with some diamond edges up in there, and it will actually straighten and resharpen your needle. If you want to invest in those, I'll leave a link in the description below. So, okay, this was the spring. We want to make sure we know which spring's what. That was the spring that went to that. I always leave the other one inside this particular piece here. Small drop of this super lube down in the down inside where your trigger fits. You just got to kind of eyeball that. Once you get it in there, work it up and down a few times and make sure that it's seated properly. And it's kind of tricky and with no light or not very good light, get that thing in that little hole. There he goes. Just kind of work it. Got a little bit of that super lube in there. You don't want water in there. It'll eventually make that trigger mechanism a little bit sticky. So now next we're going to go back in with this piece. Again, that tang fits right up next to the shaft of the trigger. Next up, with the spring inside this, place it over that shaft and tighten it. Is all that's needed. And then again, if you have this type of handle mechanism, the next thing you want is your aluminum piece, followed by the cone. Don't want to fully tighten that. And then take this and just put a few drops of this super lube on it and work it around your needle, and that's going to help seat with the O-rings that are found inside the airbrush itself. Good, nice and smooth. Spring's working extremely well, so everything's good to go. Then just tighten your end cap and your brush is reassembled. So it's not very difficult. It's an easy thing to do. If you own one airbrush, literally you can get this done in 15, 20 minutes. That's if you're soaking it for 10 minutes. It's a real quick, easy go back together type of thing. So that's cleaning your airbrush 101 and pretty much all airbrushes that I've ever had, some of the cheaper ones, all the way through the Iwatas, the Masters. They're all pretty much the same. They're all kind of built in the same way, just a few more differences. So anyway, if you got any questions or comments, please leave them in the box below. And thanks for joining in. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We got this beginner's tutorial. I've got some other playlists set up as far as DIY videos. Some spray sessions are coming up soon. So thanks for tuning in, and